Hey guys, it's Steve for CollectorMania. Continuing on our 32 series, we've made it to Grixis. We're doing a partner commander, so we've got two legendaries pulled up here. We've got Silas Renn, Secret Adept, so he's one colorless, one blue, one black. He's a legendary creature, of course, human, 2/2. He's got Death Touch. Whenever Silas Renn, Secret Adept deals combat damage to a player, choose target artifact in your graveyard. You may cast that card this turn. So really good card for recurring any of your artifacts. As you'll see throughout the deck, there's a lot of ways to, just sacrifice artifacts. There's also a lot of ways to recur artifacts, even without this guy. So he's one half of our equation. The second half of our equation is Vial Smasher the Fierce. So one colorless, a black and a red. Goblin Berserker, 2/3. Whenever you cast your first spell each turn, Vial Smasher the Fierce deals damage equal to that spell's converted mana cost to an opponent chosen at random. So just a fun little card to toss around, some casual, damage here and there. There are definitely some big spells in the deck, as you'll see, that will definitely hit somebody and then bring him down pretty low, pretty fast. So anyway, those are our commanders. As before we get going here, the theme of this deck is actually energy. I saw, the energy spoilers, and this actually was one of the things I really wanted to do. I settled on Grixis just because it's actually really good artifact synergy as well, so there are a lot of really good cards that just kind of meld together between the two, I guess, themes of the deck. So as we go through here, I've highlighted quite a few cards that have to deal with energy, and they are pretty important to the strategy, of course. First up, though, are Planeswalkers. We've got Tezzeret the Schemer. It's the newest version of Tezzeret. It's definitely is kind of underwhelming, especially in standard stuff like that, but I think once you start brewing around it, it actually becomes really effective. In a deck that's like this, where it's heavy artifacts, it actually makes a lot of sense. Its -2 suddenly gets a little bit better. So it's two colorless, a blue and a black, +1. Create a colorless artifact token named Ethereum Cell. With sacrifice this artifact, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. So good for color fixing, stuff like that. Can also just generate a token for you to sacrifice to other means. Its -2 is target creature gets +X -X until end of turn, where the X is the number of artifact creatures you control. So this is one of the more useful abilities on this card in this deck, just because you can usually get rid of things like indestructible creatures, stuff like that. So just an interesting card. The ultimate, I don't really care for it. At the beginning of you get an emblem at the beginning of each combat. On your turn, target artifact you control becomes a artifact creature with base power and toughness 5/5. It's okay, but we're not really using him for that. So anyway, after Tezzeret, we've got Nicol Godpharaoh. I know I've featured this guy in a million videos at this point, so I won't talk on him too much, but I pulled one in pre-release, so I just had to include it in my Grixis deck. It just makes sense. So here he is. I love him for his +1 ability. Each opponent exiles the top 2 cards from his or her hand. That's going to be back-breaking. So really good card. Works really well with the other Planeswalkers in the deck as well. So plus a few other cards that we'll get to. Okay, so on from that, we're moving on to our creatures. First up, we've got a Glint Sleeve Siphoner. This is another card that I know I've talked about before, but in here it's really important. Just generating energy, drawing you extra cards, plus it's a really good early attacker because it's got the menace, so most people can't block it. Really cool card. On from that, we've got a Ravenous Intruder. There are a lot of artifacts in here, of course, that we want to sacrifice, especially with half of our commander's abilities. So I just kind of included this guy. He's just an uncommon from Kaladesh. Just a fun little gremlin. I think he was more flavor-wise an include. So he costs 2, sacrifice an artifact. He gets +2/+2 until end of turn. Just a fun card, I think. On from that, we've got a Deal Broker. This guy is really effective for just rummaging and then getting artifacts in the graveyard that you can cast with Silas. He's normally a draft card, but in here he's just my Merfolk Looter that costs 1 more and is colorless. So he works with the theme of the deck. He's colorless. He does everything you want him to do. Plus he's a 2/3, so he's pretty good at blocking too. So and then we've got a Scrap Trawler, another way to recur artifacts. So like, for example, you sacrifice your Wayfarer's Bauble, you can... Well, actually, that doesn't really work. Now that I think about it, you sacrifice like Silas Renn, you can get your Wayfarer's Bauble back. So stuff like that, really interesting card. And then we've got a Quicksmith Spy. This card is actually a lot better than I think people think it is. It comes down, you choose an artifact, you can tap that artifact and then draw a card. Really, really good. Generates you a lot of card advantage over the game, essentially. So, really cool card. Nice to include, I think. Then we've got a Vidalcan Archmage. Another really good way to generate card advantage just by playing a bunch of artifacts, drawing cards. Plus, it's got pretty cool artwork. Then we've got Hoarding Dragon. This is a card that I was telling Eric before we even started. Like, he showed me this years ago, and now anytime I'm playing artifacts in red, I just include it in there just because it's a really fun way to, I guess, tutor, but it not be so broken, because in my opinion, a lot of tutor is just kind of like, I don't know. But with this guy, it's like, well, I have to jump through some hoops in order to get it to work. So, like, it puts it in exile. This guy has to die in order for me to get it back to my hand. If somebody exiles this card, I don't get it back to my hand. So there's risk there, too, which is always kind of like, am I going to get this card or not? So you got to be kind of careful when you're playing this. Grab maybe something that's important, but not, like, crucial. So really fun. We've got a Big Mac Daddy here with Combustible Gearhulk. I love this card. I will probably love this card forever. It comes in and either draws you 3 cards or deals somebody's a lot of damage. I think with this deck I dealt like 15 damage just on one person just by, you know, them having the ability where it puts the cards into the graveyard. So really, really cool card. Plus 6/6 first strike. It's actually really, really good. And with Silas, once again, somebody kills it, you can just hit somebody with Silas and then cast it again. So really, really fun. And getting into some of our energy producers, we've got a Demon of Dark Schemes. This guy is kind of like the modern version of Massacre Worm. Not as good, of course, but still pretty effective. It'll generate you a ton of energy, especially if somebody's playing like small tokens or anything like that. Plus, it's a really good way to utilize your energy by just recurring creatures from anywhere. So really, really fun. Plus 5/5 flyer. So good beater. And then we've got a linchpin of the deck in Marionette Master. This is one of the pseudo-win conditions. You get it down, and then if you have a bunch of artifacts, you can just start sacrificing them to finish somebody off. Especially if you can start making clones of this. I'm not sure if there are a lot of ways in this deck, but in my other deck, which will be featured when we get to 4-color, there are a lot of ways. So just an interesting include there. And then we've got a Herald of Anguish. This is another hand control card, plus it's from Kaladesh, so I had to throw it in. He's got Improvise on him, which is really, really good, especially for artifacts decks. So you can actually tap your artifacts to pay for this guy. So going back to generating tokens, like with Tezzeret, we can, well, I guess those tap for mana anyway, but you have to sacrifice them. Normally, you can now just tap them to generate a colorless mana to play this guy. So really cool card, 5/5. I love his ability. You know, at the beginning of each end step, each opponent discards a card. That's pretty good. Oh, beginning of your end step, sorry, not each end step. Then you can pay 2, sacrifice an artifact. Target creature gets -2/-2 until end of turn. So really cool there. And then we've got Metalwork Colossus. Once again, with a bunch of tokens, you know, artifact tokens, this guy just becomes super, super cheap. He's got kind of pseudo improvise on him. So really, really cool. 10/10 for 11. Just kind of a guy. Plus you can sacrifice 2 artifacts, return Metalwork Colossus from your graveyard to your hand. So he kind of has a way to self-recur. From that, we will get into our artifacts. There are quite a few. First up, we've got a Wayfarer's Bauble. Just a really good way to generate ramp in a non-green deck, I've found. You know, it's kind of like casting a slow rampant growth. Most of the time it is just a rampant growth, though, so really, really cool card. And then we've got another energy generator, Aether Sphere Harvester. And as I was just talking about when we started, you know, tearing this deck apart to film it, I really need some more vehicles in here now I think about it. I mean, that's a Kaladesh thing, so why aren't there more in here? I think I only have this one and like the Cultivated Caravan, so that'll definitely be on my list to include, maybe like a Thoptercopter and maybe like the Skyship or something like that. So, but anyway, this card's really, really effective in here. Generates a ton of energy, plus it, well, generates 2 energy, plus it can gain lifelink, so it can utilize the energy that you've actually built up. So crew 1 isn't bad either. I mean, you can use Vial Smasher to crew it, because you're usually not going to swing with Vial Smasher. So there's that. And then Cultivator's Caravan, as we talked about before. Really good mana rock, plus it can become a 5/5, so it's actually a pretty good threat, you know, when you need it to be. So just a nice card to include there. And then we've got Inspiring Statuary. So this actually gives your non-artifact spells improvise. So as we talked about with the demon, now this applies to basically all the rest of your creatures that are on artifacts, and then all of your instant sorceries and enchantments. So really, really cool card. It's probably one of my best, or one of my favorite from that set. Okay, and then we've got one of our big payoffs for energy, and that's Aetherworks Marble. Usually what you're going to try and do is kind of chain into this, where you can like draw a generate a whole bunch of energy and then pay the cost and then generate some more energy by putting something like the demon in or something like that. So really, really good card. I'm kind of happy it got banned. That made it a lot more accessible for EDH players because now it's like dirt cheap and you can just pick it up, you know, willy-nilly. So there's that. And then we've got another one in Gonti's Aetherheart. So this card's busted in a lot of ways. I mean, taking an extra turn is really, really good, especially when it's like crucial. Like you just get your next turn and you probably win the game. So Gonti's Aetherheart, really, really good. Another good payoff card. Okay, so on from artifacts, we've got our enchantments. We've got an Era of Innovation. So whenever an artifact or an artificer enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay 1. If you do, you get 2 energy. And then you can sacrifice it and pay 6 and then draw 3 cards. So early game, it's a great way to generate energy. Late game, it's a great way to draw cards. So really, really cool. Can definitely, you know, work with a lot of the cards that are in here. And then other than that, we've got a mechanized production. Talking about tokens once again, this can actually just win you the game if you've had Tezzeret out for long enough, or any of those token generators. I think there's a few clue cards in here as well. So generate enough clues or Tezzeret tokens or whatever type of token, then just slam this down, and then at the beginning of your upkeep, I believe is, yeah, you just win the game because you have enough tokens. So as long as no one has an answer, you're probably good. So there's that. And then on from that, we are going on to our instant speed spells. I've only really featured one here. There are a few in the deck, but most of them are just removal spells that we've seen before. So Glimmer of Genius. This card is just scry 2, draw 2 cards, you get 2 energy. For 4 mana, I think that's pretty good. I mean, that's a lot of words on one card for 4 mana at instant speed. I would have thought this would have been a sorcery speed spell, to be honest. I've seen, you know, a few people brew with this in like, you know, budget standard and stuff like that. But I don't know. I actually really enjoy this card, especially in a deck like this. I think it's useless outside of energy for the most part, because, I mean, scry 2, draw 2 cards, it's good, but I don't know if it's that good. But when you're including energy in an energy deck, it just makes a lot of sense to run this. Okay, so those are the instants. On from instants, we've got our sorcery speed spells. We've got Live Fast, so draw 2 cards, lose 2 life, and gain 2 energy. So just an early kind of just way to generate energy and card advantage. And then we've got another card that kind of works with Nicol Bolas, and that's Dark Intimations. 2 colorless and Grixis. Each opponent sacrifices a creature or planeswalker, then discards a card. You return a creature or planeswalker card from your graveyard to your hand, then draw a card. Then it's got, whenever you cast a Bolas planeswalker spell, exile Dark Intimations from your graveyard. That planeswalker enters with an additional loyalty counter on it. So it's just got this interesting payoff for playing in like a Nicol Bolas anything in your deck. So I definitely wanted to include it. Plus the each opponent thing is really, really nice. It definitely can, in certain positions, put you way ahead. So really cool card, really interesting. I kind of wish that I would have gotten a few more English copies of this, because I opened a bunch of, I think, Japanese packs, and they have like 3 Japanese versions of this card, and it's a little wordy, so having to do that sometimes is a little bit of a pain, just trying to remember what the card does. Okay, so on from that, we've got Reverse Engineer, another card with Improvise. So, I mean, I've actually, you know, pretty much every time I've cast this card, it's been for 2 blue, so it actually works really well. Draw 3 cards, just a nice little draw spell, really. So, cool card, definitely a good include in a deck like this. Okay, so on from sorceries, we're on to our single featured land, and that is Spire of Industry. This is a definite include in pretty much any artifact deck, I would say. It's you can tap it and pay, or grab a colorless to your pool, or you can tap it, pay 1 life, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool, activate this ability only if you control an artifact. So once again, artifact heavy decks are going to love this card. I mean, you can generate any color you need to. It comes with the downside of paying life, but I don't know, it's just another great dual land to include in a deck like that. Just another command tower at that point, really. You just need to make sure that you have an artifact in order to use its, you know, payoff ability there. So anyway, with that, that is the deck tech. I hope you guys have enjoyed my take on energy. As always, check out the tapped out list. You can definitely see what else I'm doing in here. And then like, favorite, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video. Thanks, guys.